The BBC has included a transgender Colombian scientist in its annual list of 100 inspiring women.
La palma de cera es el árbol nacional de Colombia.
You can see this as simply as night and day. Just look at the photos, and that last one from his Instagram is just utterly insane. It is the land of hate. So done with this dystopian United Kingdom. Well, it's another day on the war on women, guys. What do you know? Today I woke up ready to tackle a different subject other than trans and gender. I was midway through making a video on the immigration crisis in Ireland, so watch out for that one. Hopefully I'll still get it out. But then, of course, this is pretty much on a daily basis. We have more and more ridiculous stories coming out because of gender ideology and the crazy woke mind virus that is sweeping the West. What do we have today? Well, the BBC released its 100 Women of 2024 list. And of course, this is not 100 women of the year. This is 100 women plus men who identify as women. So basically, the category is null and void. What's the point of having Women of the Year list when you include men on the list? And yes, trans women are a category of men.
Can I just be real? I consider trans women to be a category of men, not a category of women. That is my opinion as a trans woman myself. So don't you dare tell me I can't have my opinion.
So who exactly made the cut this time? Well, the BBC has included a transgender Colombian scientist in its annual list of 100 inspiring women. As a trans woman biologist, Brigette Baptiste explores the common patterns between biodiversity and gender identity. So, of course, it's not just a trans woman who happens to be on the list, but it has to have something to do with gender ideology. You'll notice that a lot of trans-identified males, particularly the kind we're going to discuss in this video, tend to make trans and gender everything about their life, or a large focus in their life, to try and push the agenda further and further. It says she uses a queer lens to analyze landscapes and species in a bid to expand the notion of nature to better protect ecosystems. In her 2018 TED Talk, she used the Quintido wax palm, Colombia's national tree, as an example of how, quote-unquote, the change of sex and gender has been regularly reported by science across the lifetime of species. So just like we said in yesterday's video about Keith Caputo, talking about clownfish and butterflies and whatever else the fuck, in this case, human beings are not trees, and they are not plants that can change sex. Humans cannot change sex. And what do you know, this biologist has made this a big focus of her career, trying to gaslight women into believing that you can change sex.
Sorry, you can't.
So hi everyone, it's Jack. Welcome back to my channel. Or if you are new, hello. Make sure you subscribe, like the video. And once again, just a reminder, I'm doing a December 25% off discount for Jack Jewell Uncut Substack. So link is on the screen or in the description. Here you can see my full uncut, untamed, and unashamed takes, too controversial for YouTube, as well as bonus footage seen nowhere else. So head on over there if you'd like to support the channel. So back to Women of the Year award. Now, with Brigette, the Colombian biologist, one thing that annoys me about this most of all is every time a male seems to be taking an opportunity of a female, they are always the autogynephiles, the AGPs, the fetishistic men who have a sexual attraction towards themselves as a woman. And I don't care what anyone has to say. You can see this as simply as night and day. Just look at the photos of Miss Brigette, the fetishistic outfits, the massive boobs, but still the complete masculine appearance. And that last one from his Instagram is just utterly insane. We can really see how strong the woke mind virus is in these scenarios, because lots of men are so out of touch with women's issues that they kind of don't go near this. But really, women who claim to be feminists, like, wake the hell up and smell the autogynephilia, right? It's gross. It is right there in front of your eyes. This is a male who has a sexual attraction towards seeing himself as a woman. And the fact that a male can claim womanhood, and then this is his idea of it, these fetishistic outfits, these massive boobs. Looking at the list, I can't see any female on the list who has a massive boob job and an ass job and is all about this pornified version of woman. No, all the other women are of a very different caliber and style, which we're going to get to. I could just grant this a tiny bit more grace if in all these circumstances they chose trans women, i.e. males, who were gay men. It would still be wrong, but it just goes to show the difference between these types of trans women, because lots of the trans women attracted to men have a lot more empathy for women and do not want to take opportunities from women. Think about all the athletes beating women in sports. I guarantee you the vast majority of them, if not all of them, are attracted to women, right? Unless they have a disorder of sexual development, which is a different topic. You know, I'm going to play this video here of him doing a TED Talk and just see what you notice.
La palma de cera es el árbol nacional de Colombia.
Listen, women on the left or wherever you are that claim to be feminists, if you support this, you're not a feminist, okay? I reject you as a feminist, and I say that as a man right here. I don't particularly identify as a feminist because it means so many different things, but if you genuinely care about women's rights, and you're one of these people that's like, oh, the patriarchy, straight white men are the devil, they're the cause for all our problems, you need to wake up and see what's right in front of your eyes, okay? Inoculate yourself against that toxic empathy that has consumed you, this social justice disease that's running through your veins.
I hate a lot of people on this board.
How clear is it that women fought and fought and fought for their rights, for equal opportunities in the workplace, sports, their safe spaces? We were going pretty good for a while in the West, but then of course, what occurred to some men's minds is, hang on, okay, I can't deny them of these opportunities, so instead, I will become one of them. And while their motivations to transition are a bit more complex than that, any male who accepts an award like this, you're the furthest thing from a woman you can ever be.
A la diversidad de verdad, a la diversidad.
In this clip, what the hell is his idea of being a woman? Because I say this, if you're going to be a trans woman, at the very least, you're performing the stereotypes of a woman, or your femininity as a gay man is so that of a stereotypical woman that it kind of makes more sense for you to do you and do what you want to do. So I'm not against that. But the fact that a whole audience can watch this male speak with these massive boobs, this deep voice, masculine energy, like it's just, I don't understand how people cannot see what's in front of their eyes. All of these women who claim to be feminists, who claim to be social justice warriors, you can see that their whole motivations behind their wokeness, it has nothing to do with other people. I really don't believe it does. It has everything to do with them, because what matters to them is social capital and status. And in their minds, trans women, men are at the very bottom of that oppression scale, and they will cling onto this opinion even though it is completely counterintuitive to the kind of values they're supposed to hold. So I guarantee you one day, a lot of us people speaking out against this, on behalf of women, on behalf of gay children, all the areas this is affecting in society, we will eventually come out on top. And hopefully people will realize, look at all these women, look at all these gender critical feminists who worked so hard for this. Why don't we name a bunch of those women of the year? And what do you know? Of course, none of these types of women are on the list of 100 inspiring women of the year. One woman who is on it, however, is Giselle Pellicote, who was recently involved in a scandal where she suffered years of being drugged and raped by many men at the hands of her husband, and how insulting it is for her to put a man on the list next to her. So at least with her, I'm very glad that she's made the list. Another thing that I'll mention about this 100 women of the year is that it may as well be called 100 left-wing women of the year, 100 social justice women of the year. You know, just say it like it is, BBC. Going through this whole list, few keywords here: activist 16 times, LGBT 9 times, human rights 38 times, Gaza 12 times, Palestine 12 times. A few examples here. Roxy Murray, UK disability rights advocate. She says, as a queer, brown and disabled woman, resilience is both deeply personal and profoundly collective. Now this person, Sharon Kleinbaum, she's a rabbi, but not only is she a rabbi, she has spent 3 decades inspiring change at the intersection of LGBTQ plus rights and religion. Tasha Jacqueline of Uganda is a diversity and inclusion campaigner, and Anne Chumaporn, funny name, is an LGBTQ plus rights campaigner as well. So listen, I don't have a problem with this, and I have no doubt a lot of these women are devoted to noteworthy causes, especially reading about those women in countries where gay rights are really not a thing, advocating for that. I think that is what the LGBTQ plus charities or whatever should be focusing on. Gay people abroad who are suffering persecution and murder rather than the autogynephiles. With stuff like this, the anti-woke right always jumps on it and they kind of go a step too far in my opinion. I mean, this tweet reads, "This year it seems to be dominated by LGBT, Palestine and climate change activists." And while this is true, I think sometimes they see this stuff and they just automatically brandish it all as, oh my God, this is just woke. I think two things can be true at once. I think a lot of women on this list obviously deserve to be there and have done a lot of good. But BBC, you may as well just admit this is a left-wing social justice list of Women of the Year. The only person on the list who is on the right is Kemi Badenoch. And it's funny because her profile doesn't really say much about identity politics because, you know, newsflash, Kemi doesn't buy into that stuff. But they do manage to bring her race into the situation. Something that would be very easy, in my opinion, on this list would be to put a few women who are very successful business women in the corporate world, you know, capitalist women who don't have organizations that are something to do with human rights or social justice. But there really is not one single person like this on the list. You know, looking for the word entrepreneurship, it appears 7 times. And here's one person, you know, she is an entrepreneur, but it just happens to be sustainability. This is another one, fashion entrepreneur, and she incorporates upcycling into the company's production chain and focuses on sustainable practices. Here's another one, femtech entrepreneur, sexual health educator, focuses on topics like menstrual hygiene, reproductive health, and sexual awareness. All of these things are really important, and maybe the concept of women's rights does exist a bit more on the left, but I don't necessarily think that this list has to be all women fighting for women's rights. It could just be women who've done amazing things or women who are really talented. Even in the case of Ray, a UK singer who is very talented, they still bring the social justice into this, saying she has spoken openly about the struggles she has faced both in the music industry and outside, including sexual assault, drug abuse, and body dysmorphia, and has called for fairer pay for songwriters. So look, I don't want it to seem like I'm disregarding this because that in itself is important. And I think it is completely worthy of praise, right? It's just the fact that this list of women doesn't have basically anyone on the right except Kemi Badenoch. It doesn't have any capitalist entrepreneurs. It doesn't have any female comedians that just happen to be funny or female writers that just happen to be great fiction writers. Everyone has to have an identity politics and social justice spin on it. And you know, there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but BBC is supposed to be impartial. Newsflash.
It's not.
I've cancelled my BBC license. And BBC, you guys really do not know how to just take a chill pill with all of this stuff. This announcement, in fact, comes days after the BBC awarded Women's Footballer of the Year to Barbara Branda. So, Miss Barbara, I think we're seeing a bit of a Imane Khelif situation here. So Andrew Kamanga, president of the Zambian Football Association, confirmed in 2022 the striker had not met the gender verification criteria and so could not compete in the Women's Africa Cup of Nations. So again, it's very clear right here, and of course I'm making a large assumption, but I have very strong feelings I'm correct, is that this is a biological male with a disorder of sexual development, similar to Imane Khelif, who was found to have XY chromosomes and internal testes, and Castor Semenya, who has 5-alpha reductase syndrome. So Castor is a biological male with an under-virilized exterior body, but still went through male puberty, and this is likely the same case for Imane Khelif and this Miss Barbara, even after the scandal of the Olympics. And even though Barbara failed the test in 2022, BBC still gives the award, you know, not even just the shortlist, but the award to a biological male with a disorder of sexual development. This is really an epidemic on the war on women. Everywhere you look, there are males taking opportunities from women. You know, the United Nations just recently announced that over 900 medals were lost by women being awarded to males. So all of the wokies on the left who keep saying, you know, this is really not a big issue, they don't enter that often. That list of women, inspiring women, there are 100 women on it, and because of that one man with autogynephilia who made the list with those massive boobs, pornified body, that is one woman who has missed out from that. And I don't care if you feel like I'm being pedantic, it is not right. There's no point having a woman's category, a female category, if it applies to also men. There is just no point. Also interesting on the list is this woman from Japan who was born with cerebral palsy and was discriminated against from a young age. When she was 12 years old, she was subjugated to a hysterectomy, a procedure to surgically remove her uterus. So Where have I heard something like this before? Oh yeah, sterilizing children and mutilating children in the name of this ideology too. So it's fine for the BBC to call it out in this case, but they've been all too happy to support the transitioning of minors in the past. So it is really double think we're seeing all the time with this, you know? None of it makes sense. None of it is logical. It is just a list of woke doctrine, and they are very happy to follow it. And of course, J.K. Rowling was hot on this about this footballer. She said, presumably the BBC decided this was more time efficient than going door to door to spit directly in women's faces. I love J.K. Rowling as she gives zero fucks. She doesn't pander to trans activists at all anymore. She really goes in for the kill, and she's uncancelable. So she is going to go down in history as both a beloved author, but a fierce campaigner for women's rights who really moved the dial on these gender issues. The BBC really keeps taking hits. Just this week, Gregg Wallace of MasterChef faced multiple allegations of inappropriate sexual themed behavior and has now had to stand down. There are mixed feelings about this one, but largely a lot of the stories I heard, it does sound like he was behaving very inappropriately. I just think it's a shame that all of these things have to come out years after. The BBC just has scandal after scandal. You know, how many pedophiles have come out of the BBC? So they pretend to be for women, but they really are not, because men are women. And in all of these scenarios, males who have harmed women and children have been shielded. And also with these pedophiles avoided prison, while people that made social media posts have gone to prison. So we are really living, guys, in opposite land. It is the land of hate, and it is opposite. And I am so done with this dystopian United Kingdom. Lately, I've just been thinking, God, am I going to be here long term? Like, where can I go that is not this woke? I doubt I'm going to leave. You know, I have a life here, but I really hope that things can return to more normality. It just shows how out of touch the BBC and the establishment are, because these ideas are widely unpopular. People are rejecting them. We saw what happened in the US with this, right? People don't buy into this. Your average person can see through the bullshit, and they keep treating people like idiots. There are some woke libtards at the BBC who still seem to think this is a good idea, and fair enough if this is the hill they want to die on. But honestly, this hashtag defund the BBC campaign, I can really imagine it gaining more stride in the future, because they are not nonpartisan, they are not unbiased, and we can all see through it. So guys, there you have it. What do you think? Do you think this lovely Brigitte deserved to be on 100 inspiring women of the list? What do you think of the list in general? Do you think I'm too critical, or do you feel like there should have been more balance with the type of women on the list? Who would you like to see on the list? Personally, I would have liked to see Tulsi Gabbard. I think she would have been a great addition, you know, now in Trump's administration, and she's a very brave and courageous woman. I would have also liked to see lots of gender critical feminists. Not saying they're all feminists, but you know what I mean by that term. So would have loved to see them on, but of course, no. Another day in the war on women has come to a close, and we will live to fight another day. So thanks everyone. With that said, I will see you in the next video. Bye.